Welcome to another episode of On Point Podcast and More, where sharing is unlimited. I'm your host, Helen Baskerville Dukes, and today my guest is Pilar McCloud, the CEO and founder of a sweet creation youth organization, the Pilar Experience. You're a grassroots community organizer. You're a proud mother, grandmother. You're in the Library of Congress, okay, and in the Smithsonian Museum. You're a national award winner. You received a medallion award from the National Secretaries of State, and the other award is with the Institute of Nonprofit Practice Leadership Award. You're a certified community health worker, CHW, and a DEI specialist. Welcome, Pilar.
Hey!
Girl.
It's a miracle I had time. You heard that?
A miracle.
I am busy.
Yes. You know you're one of my favorite people. Like, I don't even know how I can be serious. But anyway, all right, let's
do what we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Oh, si se puede. With Obama. No, so. All right, so, we get into some heated discussions and they vary.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we're going to try to keep it, down to one topic if possible.
We'll do what we can.
Yes. Like education, because
Yes.
I know how passionate you are about it. I dabble a little bit, but I know, I'm going to give you the crown,
Ooh.
Yes.
Like my head ain't heavy enough.
Girl.
Child is bunning.
So let's start off with some Is it a hunchy bunt? All right, let's start off with questions. All right. So the new election of Providence school board members, which will be on the docket for the upcoming presidential election in November. Mm-hmm. Tell me your thoughts about that. How is the process too?
So originally, as the process stands right now, people can apply for the school board. And once you apply, I know because I did it. So I applied. I had to send references, do an application, send in your resume. You have a phone or a Zoom interview. Then from that interview, if you make it to the next phase, then you'll have the panel discussion. That's where everybody is on the stage at PCTA.
Right.
And everybody is asked the same questions, and you have to give your answer, your time, so you don't have a lot of time to go into too much depth. So you got to be quick and on with it. And then if you make it past that phase, you would have an interview with the mayor. That's as it currently stands. But as it's about to start, the mayor will choose 5 school board members himself, and 5 other school board members will run a campaign as if they'll be candidates.
Is this something new?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we, the registered voters, will see it on our ballot, and we will vote, literally, pick who we want on the school board. So there will be 5 candidates. And those people will run an election. They will have fundraisers. They will have, as if they're running almost like for city council.
It reminds me of the ward committee. Mm-hmm. When I was on that, I had to get signatures, and then let people know, hey, I'm going to be on the ballot.
Yep.
Vote for me.
Exactly. So they will have all the bells and whistles of a candidate. Right. And then whoever is selected, whoever gets the most votes wins.
And how long is this for 1 year or 2 years?
So I believe the position is for 2 years, and then they're up for renewal, which means if you decide you want to stay on the school board again, you may have to run again. Or if you don't, you just done your term. Thank you so much. Good night and God bless. This is where this is good and bad. The community gets to select who the community wants to be on the school board, which I think is amazing. Here's the other side. There's only 10 candidates. 5 are chosen, 5 vote. At some point, this vote is going to be split down the line when they get in session and have to deal with hard issues and topics. So unless they're able to sway one another to come to the other side, to me, it's going to look like how it looks in Congress with Democrats and Republicans.
Oh, wait. So I'm trying to follow you, but I get it now. All right. Wow. Interesting. So this is a totally new. It has to be
a totally new process.
I'm a little familiar with the process.
Providence has never done it like this before.
Does any other
other cities and towns, I think.
Oh,
too.
Okay.
But this is new for us.
So tell me, once your term is up, could you be one of the 5 That the mayor selects?
Maybe.
Even if you weren't the one that...
We don't know.
Oh, okay.
We'll see.
All right.
Rules change.
I'm just asking. I was just curious,
Look,
and I think this is perfect for this. So at least people who are interested, or they see your name on the ballot, they'll know.
Brand recognition will work. The community might actually be able to get. So I see it as a win because those who are currently on the school board, and there are a small hand-selected few who are truly about the community, they know who they are.
I know one.
We know 3. Will now have support because they'll have other community members, hopefully who are like-minded, to be able to help them have the harder conversations that now get kind of pushed to the side, like bullying and gun violence and all sorts of things that plague our young people. Mental health issues. We seem to be under the impression that because COVID is not COVIDing the way it did before, that everybody is great. And everybody is not great. And our young people in particular are not great. And mental health, almost seems to take a back seat until something egregious happens.
Right.
And then everybody's like, ooh, what should we do? When you should have put the fire out when it was smoldering as opposed to when it's an inferno.
Right, because one of the things I knew, once the kid got shot in front of Central, and they should have had these trainings, right? Active shooter trainings, that they didn't.
They do not.
But other communities would have had this already.
Yes.
If they didn't have it prior, immediately after that. This is something else that should have been on a hot plate as well as mental health. Because these are things that, these are disparities in our community.
Yes. Even so, with a couple of years ago actually, there was a shooting at the Providence Place Mall in the Nordstrom parking lot because there was a fight that broke out, and the fight went from the parking lot into when Nordstrom was the anchor store. Well, when I was with the previous administration on the gun coalition, I said, what do we do for active shooter training? They said, oh, we're prepared. At the time, my son worked at Nordstrom. They weren't prepared. There was no plan at the mall on a Friday night. Do you know how many people are at the mall on a Friday night? Now, Nordstrom,
and the younger kids.
And that's who was fighting. But Nordstrom and Macy's, because they are anchor stores, they had plans.
Right.
But the mall in general did not. And pandemonium and chaos ensued because I knew people who worked in other stores and then people who worked in kiosks. And the people in the kiosks were the most vulnerable. And that was at the mall. Right. We've done nothing in the schools.
So I know there's some people on my podcast, you're probably saying, where do I fit in? Where do I jump in to support a community? You could be taking notes right now and then finding your way, because there's just so many problems within our community that need support, and 5 people can't do everything.
No.
There's gifts and there's talents out here, and people have educational backgrounds and all these things that could actually benefit the community.
Right.
But neither here nor there. I just felt like when you were saying that we're not prepared, then we need people out here helping us prepare or pushing the lever. Like, where's the community when we need to push, our elected officials to do particular things, or our school board to do.
I'm so glad you said that. So when it comes to parental support and community support, although there are a few of us who don't mind getting our hands dirty on the battlefield, the battlefield is sparse. The same 10 to 20 people cannot fight every battle in the community.
Oh, I know.
Because you number 19 and I'm number 20. And we know who's number 1, but that's neither here nor there. We all can't do it. So it's more for the numbers. You need every parent whose kid attends PPSD. We don't need you to show up at every school board meeting.
Capable parent.
But you need to show up. You need to log in. We elect officials, as in they campaign and we give them our vote. And if we don't hold them accountable, then all we've done is complained while somebody sat in office and we didn't do anything to hold them accountable. If that means you need to be at your city council's front door, then so be it. Right. Your state rep, then so be it. Your mayor, your governor. You need to make the noise, because as much as I have a lot to say, I am tired of saying it sometimes by myself.
Right.
And I don't like when especially when it comes to our young people, people with disabilities, our senior citizens, our veterans. I do not like to see the most vulnerable populations taken full advantage of, and they don't either know that they should fight back, or they're just tired because they've given up and they're just willing to accept whatever the fate is.
Right. Well, I know for me, when I first, my daughter, she had gone into the public school system, I was afraid. I was afraid to push back, on the elected officials. I was afraid to say certain things, even though I knew in my heart that what was going on was wrong. But I had to step in to save my child. I had to be there to advocate for my child. And then other people's children, because I knew a lot of the kids who were in school. But that's not just my responsibility.
No.
It was others. So I always try to encourage people.
Yes.
When people would call me, oh, what's going on with the PTO meeting? Well, you can come too.
Yeah. Everything is open for everyone.
Right. You don't have to, you can't, I understand you work and you can't make every meeting. But can you make some for your child?
We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And everybody makes time for what is important to them. If you are telling me that you want A, B, C, and D done, but you don't have time to show up to advocate to do it, then clearly that is not on your bucket list. Now that is okay, because that is your choice. Hallelujah. However, don't be mad when you don't get what you deserve, because your taxes pay into all of these buckets. So you need to have a lot to say about everything. And for those who love to say, I don't get into politics. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Your taxes come out of your check, even when you don't want them to.
Exactly.
That is political.
Right.
When there are potholes on your street, politics. When the street lights don't come on, politics. All of that is political. Right. So when you say you don't get into it, well, you should, because politics is all in your business.
Right. And I think sometimes we have to look at it as, you don't have to give 100 in every single area.
No.
But just get in and play the part.
Show up.
Yeah.
If you come through the door, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Sometimes once you come through the door, just seeing, do you know what it's like to go to a school board meeting? I know it can be uneasy, it's tense, especially if you're doing public testimony.
It can be tedious.
It's tedious, it's aggravating. It can really be the thorn in your side. However, sometimes you don't need to say anything.
Exactly.
Just fill up the room.
Right.
Because the one thing they don't want to see is a full room.
I just don't want people to feel like they're being targeted.
Right.
In what I am saying.
Right.
I just want them to understand how powerful their voice and their presence is. Even not just for politicians or people in charge, but for your child. My daughter knew I was going to be there at the school. Even the teachers knew, so they didn't play with my child.
Exactly.
I said, I'm here for my child. I know if she's in here not doing what she's supposed to do, I will be here to help discipline her.
Right.
But I will also check you if you're doing something wrong to my child.
Exactly.
So when we talk about education, there's so many deficits, and that's why. And you don't have to know, just ask questions if you don't understand.
Ask questions. Go to parent-teacher night. Find out who your kid's teachers are.
Right, exactly.
Find out where your kid is passing or failing. Don't not show up to parent-teacher night, but then get upset when you find out your kid is not graduating. Where were you the other 9-10 months out the year?
Girl, we know who on Atlanta Housewives, don't we? Instead of basketball wives, so I need to go on.
Right.
And put that same energy in for our kids.
Yep. Because I can tell you, you love a hip hop people myself. Atlanta, Florida, and New York. But that's a different question.
There's one. Alabama? Is that one too?
No, there's not Alabama.
Who's it?
That's the Bell Collective, and it's in Mississippi,
Jackson. My bad. Yeah, that one too. Okay.
I like a little ratchet TV. Keeps me sane.
Yeah, so but I'm saying here, as much energy we put there, so should we put into our kids.
Someone made a comment on Facebook and said, if parents took the same initiative they do for prom and graduation during the rest of the school year, just like you can make sure your kid gets to prom and has this bomb graduation party, you need to be there before they get to the prom and graduation, or there will be no prom and no graduation. And I'm sorry,
empty graduation, because we know these days our kids are graduating, and then what?
And they still have not learned the basics.
Right. People have expectations of parents, but when you come through this failed system, how can I help my child when I fail through this system.
And the other side of the conversation is also, how can I help my child when not every teacher, but some teachers are just there for the check and the pension, and let's not pretend that they're not.
Girl, look through the rearview mirror on their way home going into their own city.
And will not reach back out to the community that they work in until Monday morning comes back and it's time for them to come back to work. Because it is literally a 9 to 5. The teachers that do the most, those are the ones that are really invested in our young people and the community. Yet those teachers are sometimes scrutinized because the teachers who don't want to do it don't want to be bothered. So they don't want to raise up the expectation. So everybody got to dummy it down.
Right. Or not even scrutinized. They're not even getting the opportunity.
No. And then don't even start talking about black and brown teachers.
No, we won't. So because you went to a PWI, how did it feel?
Back then it felt,
because New York is kind of different.
New York is kind of different, but I went to school in Brookville, Long Island, out in kind of like the sticks a little bit. There were horse ranches, things like that, not far from Old Westbury, but it was different. It was when we marched for MLK Day, because it wasn't a holiday, you know, people came out to see what we were doing and why we were singing. And we had candles. Are we going to burn the schools down? You know, when we sat in and, you know, sat on a hill because we wanted to protest going to school on Malcolm X's, you know, the day he was, I think it was the day he was assassinated. We were looked at like, why are you making trouble? Everything's fine here. And we were looking like, no, it's not. No. But now we have a lot more. Then it was like just a handful of you. Now it's kind of like it's everybody. So now when we do it, it's different. I almost have more pride when I do it now. Then you were ostracized. Like your neighbors in your dorm next to you, in the room next to you, they kind of gave you the, oh, you're one of those. Oh, you're a troublemaker. And I'm like, but you get, everything works and centers around you.
But you can protest about whatever you want to.
And they didn't care. As long as there was a keg on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they didn't care. As long as the team wins.
So how does all of this affect our community?
All of it affects our community for a few reasons. One, economically. It affects our bottom line and our money. What comes in, what comes out, or what doesn't move at all. Number two, it affects our mental stability because we move in a way that is going to be protective for us and our family. So self-preservation is first. So the first thing you're going to do before you do anything else is make sure your home is protected.
Right.
But then now when you go outside your home, yikes. But you still have to make sure that your home is protected. So you got to make sure you keep your job. You got to make sure that your home is provided for.
Right.
You got to make sure all the bells and whistles, everything checked. That affects you mentally, even when you know that what you're doing is not benefiting and serving you. And by that I mean racism. Racism plays a role in everything we do because it's in everything we do. Right. From our healthcare to the commercials we see on television to what is in your neighborhood to what is not in your neighborhood. Right. It is not by happenstance that there are only liquor stores and payday loans and McDonald's on the south side. But if you go to Situate, you don't really see it like that.
Right, because there used to be one bank on the south side, Citizens, and it's gone.
Yep.
So it's over there now.
BOA, maybe?
And you know, even on the east side, the only bank we had to go, which is Summit on Hope Street, which is in another community.
But but anything that is of value does not always come to our community. But things that are of value go to other people's community. That affects us mentally. Right. That is racism.
Right.
If you are living and all you can barely do is pay your rent or your mortgage, that is racism. Right. That is not affordable housing. That is, Lord Jesus, let me make this payment housing. AKA, I better not call out sick or lose any pay because...
Well, hence, we're going to go back to school. So because I got to work. I can't take any time off.
I can't take any time off to go to my kid's school. I work several gig jobs.
In the PM. So those PTO meetings are in the PM.
In the PM.
I can't make it.
No, and if you have those school board meetings, you can watch it live on YouTube, but you can't make any comments on it. Why not? I know when I go on YouTube and watch a podcast, I can, but I can't do it with the school board. how hard would that be for them to change just that?
Right. At least put your name in, just like when you walk in, and you say, "Okay, I want to make public comments."
What a thought.
Right, and they can cut you off.
And
they
could.
They can say you get 2 minutes.
Well, they know because they time you when you do
Right.
it in person, so they could do the same thing.
Exactly.
But you know what? That might open up more doors for more Black people to show up and participate. We wouldn't want that now, would we? Of course
No,
not.
we want that.
No, of course we do.
We want
but
that.
the powers that be, they never do.
Right.
Because that is a great way to keep us, as my mother would say, underfoot.
Right.
That also keeps us from progressing.
Well, I'm gonna share one thing with you before we go on, because I want to talk about the real difference between public schools and charter schools. I can honestly say in my soul of souls that our community is coming together. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come together very soon. Mm-hmm. And at least here in Rhode Island, Providence, and the surrounding cities. And we're going to be a force to reckon with.
We should be. We have all the right things lined up the right way.
We really do.
And if it don't happen, well...
Oh, no, it's going to happen.
Well...
I saw it. I saw it in a vision. So the real difference between public schools and charter schools. I only know a little bit because we were dealing with this when my daughter was in the public school system, so.
So when you are in public school, first of all, your tax dollars goes into public school funding. Mm-hmm. So everyone who works, full-time, part-time, gig, temp work, whatever you do, taxes come out your check, a portion of that goes into public schools.
Right.
Public education. Each child in the public school system, depending on where you live, is anywhere from $9,000 to roughly about almost $11,000 per kid, per school, public school. So when a child goes from public school to charter school, that takes that money out of the public school system and it takes it into the charter school system.
Do they get more though?
The charter school?
Yes.
That I do not know for a fact.
I'm going to have to Google that because I think I heard something about that. I think it went up to like almost 18 G's. I'm not sure.
Maybe, I don't know, don't quote me. However, because of public school, public funding, federal, city, state, public schools have a public board. You know who's on it. The meetings are open. Everyone can attend. You have the right to give written testimony. You have the right to publicly speak. The public has a right to know on paper. Charter schools are a little different. They run like private institutions. You know there's a board, but you don't really know who's on it. Not necessarily. You don't know.
Not a phantom board.
Child, it's like a Scooby-Doo mystery. You don't know where they meet. You might not know when they meet. You don't know who's on the board, who's meeting. And good luck, God bless, if you say, I want to talk to the board.
Wait a minute, is this all the
charters? I just know a few.
In particular, okay.
In particular, in Providence, where things are a little secretive. And because in public school, if there is an issue, you can go to the office, call the principal, whoever, you can have a meeting. And you can technically meet until you can't meet no more to get to the bottom of the problem and get an issue. Sometimes charter schools don't work like that because they can move the needle any way they see fit, depending on the child, the parent, or the situation. Also known as, if I don't really care for your child, I'm going to, and yes, there are some adults who do not, for whatever reason, care for little kids, yet they work in a system in which they are responsible for the care and the education of little kids. Especially if we are talking about Black and brown kids from marginalized communities, and especially doubly, as my mother would say, doubly as offensive if we are talking about students that may have learning disabilities or be physically disabled.
Behavioral challenges as well.
Or mental health issues. That is a whole separate issue in and of itself. That's a whole separate, almost like wing of education, whether it's public or charter or private. But charter schools run by their own set of rules. And although their website may look amazing and say all the things that you love, they may not follow their own rules with what's on their own website, even about their own mission statement. And now you are in a tug of war. And what I have found is that everybody Black is not for Black people's liberation. Just because someone is black or brown, or they have a degree in Africana studies, or whatever the case may be, they are not for the advancement of all black people. They are not. And some of those same black and brown people who you would think would want to help push the needle for progress or be more beneficial to the race, they are sometimes the ones that are the most detrimental. Because I understand racism when a Caucasian person is coming at black and brown people. I give the side eye when it's someone that looks like me and comes from where the same block I come from. We're neighbors, but you only want to make sure you get for you, and everybody, and be damned to everybody else. How does that make sense?
Right.
And that's what I call crabs in the barrel mentality. And to me, that is what the difference is between public and charter school. Public school, you live in the district, you're going. That's your zone school.
Right.
Charter school, you have to apply. You have to be
You're in a lottery, right?
Yes, you are in a lottery. You have to apply. Sometimes kids are on waiting lists for years.
Well, believe it or not, that happens in the public school system as well.
Sometimes.
Yeah, because when my daughter, we live right down the street from King. It was like, they were like, no, it's a lottery. No, I live right down the street.
Yeah.
Going to King.
Right. If that's your zone.
We're not going into the.
If that's your zone, that's different. But if you are going to charter school, then, good luck. Because depending on the school, they will do an application process. Okay, sometimes you may have to do reference letters. Okay. They're not interviewing just the child. It's the child and the parent. Sometimes the family. So you got to check all those check boxes before your kid is probably accepted. And then don't forget, then after that, then comes uniforms. You might as well put your kids in private school.
How can parents get involved?
You can get involved by, number one, obviously showing up to a school board meeting. Don't wait until you have an issue to show up. Show up just to see what it's like. That way, if an issue should arise, you won't feel like a fish out of water if you have to go and speak and give public testimony. Be active in your children's school if you can be. I'm not saying quit your job, but show up. Even if you can't be completely active, make sure you go to open school night. If you can't physically go, Zoom, call in. But show your face other than on the first day when you drop them off and the last day when they graduate.
No,
show up in some type of way. If you can't, for whatever reason, due to whatever schedule or limitations, then designate someone in your family. Have a family tree. Somebody should be there to represent your kid no matter what. And if you can't find a relative, a blood relative, somebody in your community that you trust, get a mentor. And that's another thing. Find a mentor for your kid. And I know we say, there are certain organizations that have mentorships, but those organizations are usually inundated with applications, so the process can take longer. But go to your local church if you're a member. Go to your local community center that's in your neighborhood. Hi, I have so-and-so kids. Who has a little extra time, to maybe spend with them. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you see something, say something, ask. But as far as the school goes, if you do not find any ease with your school or the school board, then you find a community organization to partner with and have them advocate on your behalf. Go to your mayors. Go to your state reps. Go to your city council. Do you have city council meetings? If not, talk to your city council and find out why you don't. Because you should be having them. There are X amount of city councilors. There should be city council meetings at least once a month. You don't know what the residents need if you never ask them what they want. And if none of those things happen, honey, come see me. I love a good advocacy. We will go out there and beat the drum and fight the fight. But there are more than enough orgs that will fight on behalf of young people. There's Providence Student Union. There's Arise. There's a bunch of organizations that can help. And
we have the sororities. You got the fraternities here.
So you got the Divine Nine. And if all else fails and you've done everything I've said and then some, and none of it works, you may need to seek legal representation.
Right. And then also with getting the support in the beginning will prevent you having to need an emergency.
In the end.
Exactly. There's an emergency.
Yep.
and then you can't find any support.
Yes, because the other side is, thanks to social media and unfortunately movies, we think every issue can be resolved in 90 minutes. And that is not how it works in the real world at all.
Not at all.
And by the time you get to the place where you need the support, you want your answer like last month.
Right.
And now you want everything to move expeditiously, and it's not going to, because you just came to me with this problem. Right. But if you come before the problem becomes a problem, then maybe there will be no problem at all. And to be honest, schools, teachers, faculty, they know which kid and which parents are out there and active and vocal.
They really do.
And kids are not having issues. Their parents just don't know that they should be advocating for that.
Exactly. Like I said, I was very involved, and that was really because of my sister. I'm like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. She said, just get in and figure it out.
The bottom, not to cut you off, but the bottom line is this. You birthed your kid. Mm-hmm. You know that person.
Exactly.
You knew that person before you had them, and you knew that person when you dropped them off at kindergarten or pre-K at the age of 5 and 6. I don't know that teacher. I just met that person.
Right.
You are a stranger to me. So don't you, stranger, tell me who birthed this other person what my kid did. Because my question is, well, what led up to that? Mm-hmm. What did you do? What happened? Kids don't just jump off the ceiling because it's Tuesday.
Right.
And some do, and there's medication for that. But 9 times out of 10.
And there are red flags at home.
Yes, and right. So if my kid has not been acting cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs before they got to school, don't tell me that they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in school. My question is, so what led to the Cocoa Puffs?
Exactly.
What happened?
And don't be afraid to ask.
No, never be afraid to ask. And if you don't know how to advocate and ask, seek out an advocate. Mm-hmm. Someone to speak on your behalf or to speak with you and beside you.
Right. No, I appreciate that, Pilar. There was just a lot of information here, and maybe we'll have you back on.
Yeah, child, I'll come back. There's a lot of stuff. I got a lot to say.
No, because you know what? When we talk about things in our community and what needs to be done, sometimes people need to know where to start because it can be overwhelming. And I always try to revert back to myself and think of those things that overwhelm me and how I got started.
Right.
Was it someone asking me to help with one thing, and which led to other things, But it really the community activism that got me started was with my child. And when I went to school and saw how the teachers were talking to the black kids differently than they were talking to the white kids. The kids' attitudes, like why were they coming to school? They didn't want to go to college, and they were just rowdy and all these things. But I know my community. Right. So I understood this child probably didn't eat last night.
This child probably didn't get a good night's sleep. They didn't take a shower. They didn't have a safe place to stay.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things.
And it's not just our community with those problems, but
you recognize it and you can understand it. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but everybody is an advocate. Mm-hmm. And for black women, as soon as we give birth, that's the day our advocacy starts. It actually starts once we conceive.
No, actually, it starts before then because we're watching our parents become advocates. So we know what to look out for when we see other people with problems. And then, it just heightens itself when we have our own children.
And advocacy doesn't have to look like Rosa Parks. Nope. It doesn't have to look like, MLK or Malcolm X. But if you know that something is not right and you get that little funny feeling in the pit of your stomach, that's your intuition saying, you might want to ask a question. You might want to have a follow-up. Go with that. Don't ignore it.
Right. No, and it's the truth. Anyway, so Pilar, thank you so much for joining me. And I can't wait to have you back.
Yes, ma'am.
We just talk.
We do.
We know we're very passionate about our community. Mm-hmm. We're very passionate about our youth and making sure that they get some sort of guidance.
Yes.
Because we know that there was a step missed, especially with the last 2 generations, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we're not blaming everybody, but there's just, we can see it.
Yes. And in order to admit that first you have to acknowledge, admit it, maybe even apologize for it, and then now let's move forward from it. But pretending like we don't understand how we got here is foolish. Like sticking your head in the sand. Like you just don't want to say the thing out loud. Right. And the thing begins with an R, and it's called racism. Right. And we are going to say it because it is what
it's the truth. It's the truth. Mm-hmm. I had someone, when I said something, why does it always have to be about race? I said, because it is.
Because it is. It always is.
I am black. Wherever I go, whatever I do, I'm thinking about is, should I be speaking lower? Am I try to put a smile on my face?
You don't want to be the angry black woman. You don't, I don't get to take it off.
Right.
I'm black 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's nothing I can do about it.
How does my hair look? I mean, that was like...
Who have I offended by the time I stepped out the house?
Right. Am I saying things right? You know what I'm saying? Am I articulating myself? So I know that if I'm feeling this way...
Other people feel the same way.
Exactly. We have these conversations, so I know I'm not the only one feeling this way.
Nope.
But I think it's necessary that we talk, and we talk about us, and we talk about the issues and also solutions, so that we can help, someone else, be in a better place.
And the same thing, if you want to know how to get involved in your community, come to you. There's 1,000,001 places that would love a good volunteer.
Right. And you don't have to be black to volunteer.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You just have to have the heart of volunteerism.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's selfless work, but it is the most gratifyingest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
It really is. It really is. Pilar, thank you for joining me on Point Podcast and More. Absolutely. We won't cook.
No, we're not.
We won't cook.
We're not cooking.
We'll cook in conversation.
Yes, we will.
Not cook on a hot
We're going to burn on those parts.
Yes. All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode of On Point Podcast and More. We'll see you next time. And a huge shout out to our videographer, Archie, author. That's it.